Oké, we gaan toch de microfoon gebruiken omdat het hier zo barstensvol zit. En anders moet Michael Shanks zijn stem gaan verheffen, dat is ook weer de bedoeling. Zorg dat het dak eraf gaat als ik zijn naam roep, dat vind ik geweldig. Dat komt van ver, dat komt van ver. Het is nog een klein beetje jetlag, maar zeer goed gezind. Dus profiteer ervan, zou ik zeggen. You've seen him in Stargate. Please give him a warm welcome for Mr. Are you here? Michael Shanks!
Don't anybody pull the fire alarm. We could squeeze more people in here, couldn't we? Let's get a can opener. Hi, everybody. Hi.
I think you can hear me like this, can't you?
Yeah. This is much more powerful. How's everybody doing? Does anybody need this translated into French or German or Dutch? No. Good, because I'm not going to do that. Barely speak English for crying out loud. I don't know how the, you guys don't, having to sort of push, because of our picture file this morning, I've been having to push my Saving Hope pictures. You guys don't get Saving Hope here in Belgium, do you? You do? What, on your computer? Downloaded, pirated? Yeah. So you get it. You get it at your house. Okay, good. Yeah, technically you can all get it. I guess we'll do some questions and stuff, and I'll turn, I don't want to do the stand-up routine here. Oh, hi, Carol. Hi, Carol, sitting in the back. Just let it single you out, that's good. So how are we going to do the questions?
Well, maybe if it's okay with you, since not everybody knows the host of the new show,
right?
Maybe you could tell us a little bit about that.
Saving Hope, which I think is airing in Germany and is airing in the UK now, and Portugal, and Spain, and Italy, and at her house. Is a show I'm doing with Daniel Gillies, who's on The Vampire Diaries and the originals. He's kind of doing the originals. He's flying back and forth between doing Saving Hope and the originals. Is a show with myself and Erica Durance and Daniel, and we've been shooting it. We've now completed 2 seasons of it, shooting in Toronto, and it's a sort of medical drama with a spiritual twist. I really don't know how to describe it. And we really hope it's going to get here soon. I don't know why it's taken so long to get to Belgium, but it's available on your local Pirate Bay site. I highly recommend picking it. I got so much crap because I tweeted something about, it's available for piracy download, and I got a total scolding from the network for indicating that people could pirate something in today's day and age. Imagine that. How many of you have seen Saving Hope, just out of curiosity? So a speckling of it. Last time when I was in the UK, and it hadn't started airing there, I think I was in a room of 500 people, about 400 put up their hands. So I usually take for granted that people can see it now. And I highly encourage you, if you don't get it in your country, pirate the shit out of it. I think that's how my wife watched all of Game of Thrones. Not that I'm encouraging that. Okay, enough of that shit. Let's get into some questions about some other stuff. And no, I'm not in the new Stargate movie that's not being made right now. Emmerich and Devlin once every 2 years spit out some sort of interview where they talk about how they're going to redo the series and redo the movie and ignore the series completely and stuff like that. And the last interview sort of indicated that they're going to reboot the whole thing. And so I've had a lot of questions from people saying, are you going to be in it? You're going to be in it? And it's like, no. And at this moment, I don't think Emmerich is going to be doing it. So I think he did an interview because he went to the MGM offices and asked to do it, and they said, show us a script. I think that's the extent of his involvement. So I wouldn't count your chickens on that one happening. But it might, and if it does, I will be in it. And a lot of people keep asking me, when is the new SG-1 movie going to come out? Never. I don't think anybody really wants to see that, especially if it keeps taking longer and longer for it to get made. I don't think we want to see the geriatric version of SG-1. It would be interesting in a train wreck kind of way. It's like everybody would look like Shatner. Girdles on and wheelchairs and crutches and shit. That's as close to happening as the series starting up again. So I think that MGM has got other plans. They may do something with the franchise at some point, but for now, I think the SG-1 stuff is on hold. Although we are available in game form. There's the app games that we've been voicing, which is kind of fun. We just finished the second one, which is coming out in November, of the Stargate Unleashed app game for Android and Apple shit. I'm really tech savvy, can't you tell? So you can hear us in some sort of video game form. Cool. I'm dying here, help me.
Who's got a question?
Yes!
You just mentioned doing voiceover for games. What's the difference between doing that as an actor and acting in front of the camera?
For the voice stuff, we sit alone in a sound booth, and we read the script out, and we don't have the other actors around with us, so we just have to imagine what their voices are going to sound like. It's a lot easier when you're doing it with the character that you played for so long, because you pretty much know how the other actors are going to say their lines, so you can pipe in however you want, but it's not a lot of interaction with other people, and you get to wear sweatpants.
But isn't it that you have to, it's what I've been told, I'm not sure if it's true, but isn't it that you have to overact a little when it's just voice?
I don't know if I'm capable of overacting more. Yes, some of the encouragement that comes from when we get the rare director that comes in to do voice stuff, like when I was doing these audiobooks, myself and Claudia Black were doing this recent batch of audiobooks. There was a director who was in England on the phone sort of telling me how to do stuff. And she was, kind of a little over-directing, where when you played a character for as long as I have, I'm sort of like, I got this. No, I don't say that, and I don't say it that way. So you kind of have to, I tend not to try and do too much. I think Claudia is really good at she's really great at voiceover stuff. Claudia Black does a lot of voiceover stuff for both video games and movies as well. And so she's really good at getting her character across, as well as kind of overdoing it in a very animated way. I'm not much of a voiceover actor, so I just kind of choose to do it how I do it. And usually that's enough. Yeah?
Okay. My girlfriend, she has a question.
Not to put her on the spot or anything.
She wants to know, sorry to be asking this, but how do you feel, you and the other colleagues in SG-1 not being in the new movies?
Well, since there aren't any new movies, it's just fine. I think we probably feel, I think if they did get made in the way that Emmerich has been talking about them getting made in terms of ignoring the series, I don't know. We feel fine. Like it's not our property. We don't feel proprietary over it. It's very much, it was a movie before it ever got to us, and so it's very much a franchise. There was 2 other series that we weren't really involved in, so it's very much a property. How would we feel? I think I'm just curious. I'm more curious than anything else. I think it's just a little naive on the part of Emmerich to say that they're going, because he basically wants to, he never liked the series, and to give some backstory to it, I understand their dislike of what happened, because basically what happened was our guys, Brad Wright and John Glasner, came forward to MGM. They were part of doing a series called The Outer Limits, and they came forward saying, hey, we want to turn this into a weekly television series. And basically MGM had bought the rights from Emmerich and Devlin. It was their original concept and their story. They had bought the rights for it, and they offered them the chance to do the series. And I think it was a bit of a non-offer of like, we'll give you 35 cents if you produce this TV series. And they said, well, no, we can't wait, but okay, we're gonna give it to these guys. Thanks very much, have a nice day, bye. And so they were kind of pissed off that it was their IP, their property, that MGM was then taking and doing other things with it, doing it, reimagining it in their own way from our producer's perspective. So I can understand being an artist myself, that if you take your own idea and someone takes it in a direction that you're not familiar and still calls it Stargate, which is your baby, I can understand why people would be a little bit bent out of shape, but that ship sailed, right? It's been 15, 16 years since then, and I think almost 20 now since they did the original movie. So for them to now turn around, the only reason that the name Stargate is still in the public consciousness is because of the series that we've done and everything that's come out of that. So for them to turn around and say, we want to take Stargate again, and we want to ignore everything that happened over the last 16 years, is a bit naive on their part, because like I said, the only reason it exists is because of what we've done. And so they're basically turning to the existing fan base and saying, are you guys interested in Stargate? Yeah? Well, it's not going to look anything like what you want it to look like. So it's just a bit of a move that could backfire, because the existing fan base for it would be, it's kind of like what most people said about Stargate Universe. What did they say? Anybody here like Stargate Universe? Yeah, there's a few. Anybody here not like Stargate Universe?
I'm remembering the phones.
Well, you got through half of it. Yeah, I stopped watching SG-1 after 97 episodes. It was bullshit. Yeah, because Universe was so different in tone and different in storytelling, I think a lot of people were offended that it still had a Stargate name tag slapped on it, which is valid. You're used to a certain dynamic and a certain use of humor and whatever, and Universe is far more arch and far more Battlestar Galactica. Who said that? So, by the nature of people's expectations, they were a little bit, I think that's, not the storytelling, I think strangely enough, I think the storytelling in Universe was the best we'd done. It was the most adult, the visuals were fantastic, and the acting was great. It was really based in the dramatics between the characters, but it wasn't the Stargate that people were used to. And so therefore, to take the Stargate brand name and take it another direction and basically reinvent the wheel when it comes to the franchise might be a little bit dangerous on Emmerich's part. So I'm more curious to see what's going to happen. And if it works out, great. And if it doesn't, told ya.
But you still see the other from Stargate HG1? Like Amanda Sheppey?
I see Amanda almost every day. Amanda and I live about 5 minutes from each other's houses, and our kids go to the same school, so I see Amanda every day. Rick, I haven't seen, I saw it in Calgary at a convention, strangely enough. It was the first time I'd seen him in a few years. Chris I don't see. Terrell I haven't seen in a few years, even though we live in the same city. I saw a lot of Rainbow Sun Franks when I was shooting Saving Hope in Toronto. I see a few people every now and again, but a lot of it happens at conventions, strangely enough.
But you can ask to Amanda that she should come next year.
Does you want me to ask Amanda to come here next year? So maybe just to clarify, you want me here so I can go ask Amanda? No, that's what you're saying. No, it is. And when I see Rick, I'll tell him to come here too. Yeah, good to see you too. Thanks for coming. Yes.
It's about Saving Hope. Was it difficult to play a doctor because they have their own words and the medical terms? So
Actually, after saying so much horseshit on Stargate, it was all made up technobabble, that actually being doctors and doing that kind of stuff is kind of easy, because you can research and there's actually a place where you can look up the proper pronunciations as opposed to pull them out of your ass. Actually, it's I actually had come really close to having a regular part on ER from a audition. It was a page of exposition. I just sat there looking for, watch this. Doing the doctor stuff is actually, doing the actual, the surgeries and stuff like that is a little trickier, but we do have doctors with us on set that are showing us all the ins and outs, and largely we're working on rubber bodies, so if I do it wrong, they're not dying, so it's kind of awesome actually. But it can be a little bit tricky for some actors who are not used to it. I think Erica's the one who's struggled the most with some of the exposition. She has to really do the research because she didn't have to do that much exposition on Smallville, but it's actually cool to do that kind of stuff and then actually go diagnose your family. I don't do any surgeries yet. I told my dad I know how to do a hip replacement now, so maybe in the winter we're going to do a little surgery right now. Yeah.
When you look back when you were cast for Stargate and that you were taking back the part of James Spader, were you nervous at the time? And now, are you happy you took it anyway?
At that time when I got Stargate, I was just happy to have a job. And how I got it was I watched the movie a couple times and memorized Spader's scope times when he, like that, and just sort of basically did a rip-off of him. It wasn't until I was actually doing the job that I remember when we were in our first season of the show, midway through we found out we had gotten picked up for 2 more seasons, which meant that we were already at that point good for 2, and then in addition we were picked up for another 2, so halfway through the first season we were going to do 4, we knew we were going to do 4 seasons of the show, which is ridiculous now to look back on. And at that point I kind of panicked and went, I got to do something else. I have to evolve this character because I can't be doing a rip-off of another actor's work all this time. And so over time I sort of, peeled all that stuff away and sort of made it my own. I'm happy I did the show. It was a great place to learn. It was a great beginning for a young actor to find his way and to learn about the film industry and to learn about shooting. I got to do a lot of things. People would always, ask me, 10 years on a show, that's a long time. And I said, yeah, but I've known actors who have been doing various jobs for 10 years, and I got to write, I got to direct, I got to stick my nose in everybody's office and figure out what they do for a living kind of thing. And so I got to learn a lot about the industry by being in one place for a long time, sitting around twiddling my thumbs and getting bored, and then I'd go bug somebody else and figure out what they're doing and steal from them too, so it was great. Yeah? Oh, I feel angry when I see cosplayers. No, I'm just kidding. No, I think it's great. Because especially given the nature of that character, I think it's a pretty safe bet to dress up like Daniel Jackson. When you look around outside and you see what some of the other people are dressed as. Especially you. Yeah, I'm looking at you. Yes, Loki head. Is that Loki? Please tell me it's Loki. Okay, good. You never know.
You always see those kind of people with these helmets. Yeah, there are a lot of.
But it could be something else. You could be Ant-Man. You could be, you could be picking up satellite reception right now. I don't know. You could have character development. It could be Loki's aunt.
I'm Lady Loki.
You're Lady Loki. Okay. So frightened. When I see yeah, when I see them dressed as me, I think that's cool. Like I said, it's a pretty safe get-up to get into. You can, although there's a fair amount of people walking around this con with firearms. Okay. Thank you. That's good. Yeah. Hi.
I wanted to know how you feel for the story between Vala and Daniel after the end of the show.
Oh, what happened at the end of the show?
Yes, what do you think happened?
I think they carried on bickering at each other. Probably got married and carried on bickering at each other. Yeah, hard to say. I don't know. When we did Unending, there needed to be, one of the arguments for them getting together in the first place in Unending was there needed to be some sort of, reconciliation about what it was that they were doing the entire rest of the time. And it was in that one scene, it was kind of the Daniel turning to her at some point saying, "Stop the shit, stop the crap. I can't take you seriously until you actually, take yourself seriously." And so that would probably have had to happen at some point in real life for them to, actually be romantically involved truly. That's my theory of it. But I always like to imagine, when people ask what's going on with the series in my own head, I always say, well, they're just going through the gate, going on adventures, no romantic complications, just the same thing you saw, only more of.
I did not see you on a new series yet, so I will try that soon. But after Stargate, I saw you with episodes of Burn Notice. Was it a choice to do something different than science fiction series, or was it just came along and I did it?
Yeah, the part I played in Burn Notice was just an audition that I put on tape for the show. I hadn't even heard of the show before, and it was really good. It was fun, and it turned into, I didn't know where that character was going when I first, read for it, and what really came of it was not just a wonderful arc for that character, but a wonderful ongoing relationship with Matt Nix, who created the show. He's a friend of mine now, and we were determined at some point to work on a project together. So I look forward to when that day actually happens. But yeah, there was no grand plan. Most people usually always find it funny when people ask actors like why they chose certain things. It's like, well, because it was right there, because it got offered to me, or because I auditioned and I needed a job is usually the answer. It's always nice when it's vastly different. I certainly was making a hardcore determination for whatever project I was doing next after Stargate to not be a science fiction show, just to do something different. And then I ended up playing Ghost Doctor for a season. So it always varies, but it's nice to have variety. It's nice to be able to do things, but most of the time we're just looking for the next job. And if they turn into a really great opportunity, then they do. And if not, we move on to the next one. Yes, we are at the back.
What was it like to direct episodes for Stargate?
pain in the ass. Actors are assholes. No, it was, in theory, it was a great idea. I got handed a real mother of an episode that involved not only, our cast in jeopardy in some strange world, but it involved two of our cast, each of them. So not only did you have Richard Dean Anderson, you had two Richard Dean Andersons fighting each other. So in a way, it all turned out great. It was a real grueling shoot, and it was a really difficult one for a new director when you involve so many different aspects of filmmaking. Not just the the visual effects angle, but all the action sequences. It was a real action episode, so it was not for the faint of heart. Action takes about 30 times as long as regular filming does. When we were actually in the briefing room and finally filming just people talking, it was like the biggest relief I'd had. But the rest of it was I learned a lot, is the best way to put it, but it wasn't easy. I hopefully look forward to directing Saving Hope next year, so we'll wait and see what happens there. Yes, again. Well, it was in the script that they were going to be fighting each other, and I came up with a certain way that they would go about it. But it was really Rick who figured out, like, putting himself in a headlock and all that stuff. That was Rick. And when I watched them do it, I went, "That's great! Oh my God, I filmed that." And a producer jumped in and came to my rescue and said, "Oh, we can just take his face and CGI." I went, "Oh no, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Let him do it." And so it was perfect. But Rick kind of choreographed the whole thing himself, which was fantastic. It was really all his doing. So I passed that one on to him.
One episode, how long normally does it take to film an episode?
With different shows, it varies. With Stargate, we started off, we were doing 8-day episodes in the first season. And by the time we were done, we were doing them in about 6 days. Yeah, for one episode. And literally it just got to the point where everybody knew their jobs so well that the dialogue got spoken faster, the CGI got done quicker, and it was just a well-oiled machine. And as anybody will tell you in the film business, it's kind of like a pie-eating contest where the reward is more pie, where once you show them that you can do it in a short amount of time, you don't get a cookie. What you get is kind of like creating budgets, is like you kind of want to inflate your budget, because once they figure out you can do it for less, they'll give you less to do it. And so once we showed that we could do the episodes in 6.5 days, all of a sudden it was like, well, try and do it in 6. Jesus Christ. Amanda and I think for the episode Threads, we had a bunch of scenes in this tent where she was playing Replicator Carter and I was playing Ascended Daniel, and we had all these scenes. And there was about 13 pages of scenes. And Peter DeLuise was directing. And Peter DeLuise was renowned for trying to do it as fast as humanly possible. And so we literally, it was just a tent, and it was 13 pages of dialogue. And he checked with Amanda and I if we kind of knew basically our dialogue. We're like, well, yeah, I guess. And so he said, okay, you stand here, and Amanda, you stand over there, and as long as you stand on those marks, we can just box you. So we shoot all 13 pages look at Michael's way, we shoot all 13 pages look at Amanda's way. Okay, good, no more need for blocking, we did. And I shit you not, we were done by 1:30. We started at 7 in the morning, and we were done by lunchtime. We were done by 1:30. 13 pages of dialogue. And did we get a cookie for that? No. How long is it on which set? It depends on the show. Stargate was pretty adamant about doing 12-hour days, so we'd shoot from 7 and we'd be finished about 7:30 with a half hour for lunch. Saving Hope's a little different. We start at about 6:30 and we go till when we're done, which which means we go till when we're done. Where we finished, we'll start at 6:30 some mornings and we'll shoot till about 2 in the morning or something like that. If it's that kind of day, or we'll start it sometimes, and then of course it piles on. So you push the call, so all of a sudden you're starting by Friday. You're starting at 3 in the afternoon, and you're finishing Saturday morning at about 4 or 5 or something like that. We call those fratter days. It's kind of awesome. So it all varies. With Stargate was very determined to be a family-friendly show, which meant that we didn't want to murder the crew or kill the actors to do it. So it was like, let's make sure these were just 12-hour days, and therefore, whatever shots have to be compromised, we'll do it. And for Saving Hope, it's very much, we'll do whatever we have to do to make the show that we want to make. And so it goes how long as it goes, and it goes.
You've also written a couple of episodes for Stargate. What was it like to act in an episode you've written yourself? Did you feel like an actor or a writer?
Well, the writing process is pretty political, much more political than anything else. When you're in a position as a beginning writer, which is what I was in that particular thing, is that I made about 11 different pitches of story ideas to them, and they accepted my 12th. If that makes any sense. I was literally out of ideas where the producers were like, I don't want to do that. No, I don't want to do that. Well, maybe, no, I don't want to do that. Until finally I got to, my paper was all done, and I got to what was basically a cocktail napkin scribbling at the end. I said, how about this one where there's this girl who is kind of like a hybrid, I don't know, kind of like, Sigourney Weaver in the Alien Resurrection, she's kind of been genetically bred, and they were like, oh, I like that idea. And they went around the room and kind of played broken telephone with the idea until it spat out, and I was writing all this stuff down, and then I left the room going, what the fuck is that? And I went and I sat in one of the producer's office, and I was just like, what just happened? And so I wrote an outline for it, and I went into the office again, and then they rearranged the outline into some format. And then I went away for a couple of weeks and wrote all the dialogue and handed it into the producer. And when I got the script back, I didn't recognize a word of dialogue anymore. And so when we were shooting it, I remember Amanda, who was directing it, she kept asking me questions, and at a certain point she stopped because I kept going, I don't know. Well, why is he saying that? I don't know. Because it didn't really resemble the script I had kind of put together anymore, so even though my name's on it, which is a strange thing, I would say not a lot of it is what I put together. So yeah, and if you find that a lot with TV shows, is that the writer whose name is on it, if they're further down the food chain, it really is the executive producers who are ultimately responsible for the finished polish on it, and they are usually the ones who do all the fixes that suit their fancy. Television is not a democracy, it is a fascist state.
We've got time for one more question.
Oh my God. Well, I've already gotten you. Who hasn't asked a question? You haven't.
Richard Dean Anderson, is he really that funny? Or is it just an act?
Is Richard Dean Anderson really that funny? No. Yes, he is. And the day he comes here, you'll see. He's funny, but it's like, Rick is funny, but half the time you're not sure he's trying to be funny. He'll sit up here, he can sit up here trying to answer a question, and by the end of it he'll be talking about dogs humping in a park, and you'll wonder how he got there, and he won't know. He'll forget the original question. And you go, is he funny, or is he insane? And I think it's a 50-50 split. Let's give you that, yes.
First, thank you to come to Belgium. I was interested if you had already knowledge about archaeology before you played Daniel Jackson, and if you if you did spend your knowledge about archaeology, or just following the Bible?
No, because our archaeology took everything and rearranged it. Everything to do with modern cultures that, you know, you would think I could do some research on. We took it and bastardized it. We basically took it and then put it in a blender and rearranged it completely. So it was kind of like, you know, did I learn anything from Aztec culture by watching Indiana Jones and the Crystal Skull? No. Although I do believe I was the first one who came up with the concept of the Crystal Skull, not the concept, but the actual story idea, and Michael Greenberg wanted to sue Lucasfilm for it. Yeah, good luck, Mike. Yeah, so no, I would say that no, I didn't learn a tremendous amount of you know, other cultures by doing Stargate. I'd say I learned a lot about Stargate by doing Stargate.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Michael Shanks.
Thank you.